side, or
I use this week only for all of my students to watch the ones that aren't here live.
okay,
The ones that are working or can't watch will watch the recording between now and Sunday and post an assignment about what
okay,
they got from the training, and then it's
okay,
gone. Nobody else reviews it.
okay. All right, sounds
So
good.
does that sound
Yeah,
good?
that's fine. Yep,
Okay.
that sounds fine.
Yeah, we should have maybe covered that before, but I think we're okay.
Yeah, we're
I think
good.
we're I think we're good. Okay. Well, we're gonna start. I'm gonna first, I don't see Kevin on here. Post in chat if any of you guys are already juvenile officers, because I invited 3 different circuits because there's lots of new deputy juvenile officers across the southeast part of Missouri right now. So I invited some so they knew that MPACT was out there. So if you are a juvenile officer, post, ask questions, whatever you need. But I'm going to share this screen first to hopefully show you something. Turn that one off. Don't see it. Okay, I might have somehow deleted it. But I sent the students the same articles I sent you. And basically, those articles said that 90% of the children that are involved with the juvenile court and in juvenile delinquency cases have some type of mental health issue or a learning disability.
Mhm.
And so that is why I've kind of brought you in to talk to people today, Nakadia, to kind of explain what is who you work for, what kind of agency it is, and how it's not just Missouri specific. This is something that's all over the country because many of these students are from Colorado, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, some from Illinois. So it's a big mix of students. So go ahead, introduce yourself, and we'll go.
Okay. Do you want me to introduce myself and just dive right into it,
I
or are you gonna?
Yeah, we can do that, but I'll kind of explain something first.
Okay.
I had uh, information and involvement with MPACT for probably 20-year period, but then they kind of dropped off the radar. And one day, about 4 or 5 years ago, we were having a lot of issues with a young lady who also had an IEP, wouldn't go to school, had lots of problems, and some of it came from being a victim of some crimes. But then she gets involved in the juvenile system because the teachers, the administrators are saying she won't go to school, she won't participate. So she refers them to us. And I'm thinking, her mom needs some more education about the IEP and about the IDEA laws. And so I contacted MPACT just cold, and I got Nakadia on the phone, and that's kind of where it started. And from there, we started some local meetings. We got help for that kid and that parent, uh, basically through the trainings and the information and the example letters that MPACT provides. Mom got a whole lot more skilled on dealing with her IEP. And lo and behold, when all this started happening, all the little girls' delinquency and juvenile activities dropped right out of the picture. So she just dropped out of our system completely as having any problems at all and went back into the school system and negotiated the schools. And so from there, I've been stressing for juvenile officers, not just in our circuit, but across the state, to work with MPACT to try to help parents understand how it works. So Nakadia was my contact before I retired in the southeast region of the state. So how's that? Go ahead and start.
Okay, thank you, Randall. First, let me say I'm really honored to be here with you guys on tonight. Thank you, Randa, for inviting me. Again, my name is Nakatia Clay. I am the former Southeast Regional Coordinator for MPACT. I was in that position for about 5 years until I recently transitioned over into the mentor coordinator role. Randall really gave a great description of some of what we do. Before I go into a lot of detail, I just want to give you our disclaimer. If this were an official training, I would tell you that we are not advocates. So, Missouri Parents Act, we are not advocates. We empower parents to be their child's best advocate. We are also not attorneys. We do not give legal advice. So, any information that I share with you guys on tonight is not intended to substitute any type of legal advice that you may have heard or may be receiving or another parent may be receiving. We always tell our parents that if you're consulting with an attorney, we encourage you to follow whatever direction or instruction that attorney may be giving. So we are the Parent Training and Information Center for the state of Missouri. IDEA, which is the law that governs special education rights for children with disabilities, authorized parent training information centers back in, I think, 1988. MPACT has held that grant since then. So we've been in existence for a little over 30 years. Our state office is in Joplin, Missouri, but the way we're able to carry out um, services to families, we have regional coordinators that are structured throughout the state. So they are strategically set up throughout the state of Missouri. We have 6 different regions, and we have coordinators who have uh, knowledge and expertise as well as personal experience. So they may have a child with a disability or a loved one that they are caring for who has a disability. So we get it on both ends. With me, my son, who is 19 now, recently graduated from high school last year with no incidences with juvenile justice. And I am so happy about that because I know how things can go, especially being a black male in the school system. And so that was every day I was praying that he just made it out with no issues, and he did. He did, and I'm happy about that. But he has several diagnoses that led us to him having a first IFSP and then going into an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. So I have the personal and the professional experience. Um, let's see, we some of what we do, we attend IEP meetings with parents, as well as other educational meetings. We can attend those meetings with parents, but the purpose of that is to be a support to them, to make sure that they understand the process, because sometimes that language, it could be, just really tough to understand all of the language that's being put out there during those meetings. We also prep for those meetings because, again, our role is to help that parent become their child's best advocate. So we empower them by giving them the information and then teaching them how to strategically use that information, how to negotiate during those meetings, how to exercise their rights, and knowing what the school district's responsibilities are, as well as what those responsibilities are for the parent as well. We provide free training. We have an exhaustive list of trainings that we provide at no cost to families. We have understanding the IEP process, Section 504, the art of effective advocacy, positive behavior intervention, special education law, and the list goes on. Um, I am very, very proud to say that last year we were able to create a new training on special education specific to students involved in the justice system. So we were able to, currently, we have 2 trainings. We presented them during I think it was matter of fact, it was at the Missouri Juvenile Justice Association conference, their spring conference last year. So we are working to add to our existing trainings to expand on that to include those services for justice involved youth. And I will say that IDEA does not change because a youth is involved in the justice system. So just want to throw that out there. Let's see. Did I miss anything, Randall? The free trainings, we have several trainings on transition youth. Am I missing anything in there?
Yeah, you might want to explain what transition youth means because
Okay.
that is one that I also involved myself with when I was on the local jobs training boards. There was a lot of issues around that, trying to develop funding for training and try to also include students with IEPs that were transitioning out of the schools. So might go
Okay.
over that
Sure.
just a little bit.
Okay, so MPACT, we have an entire project that's dedicated to transition aged youth. Typically, those are youth who are 16 and older, preparing to transition out of high school into post secondary education, independent living, or employment. So, in that project, we have a regional transition networking teams that are spread throughout the state of Missouri. And what those teams do, they come together collaboratively. They consist of voc rehabilitation, pre employment specialists, independent living specialists, any agency or organization that specifically targets transition aged youth. So they come together, they talk about, identify the disparities in that targeted area, they identify the barriers, and they create this action plan and goal of what kinds of activities do they want to carry out in that targeted area to reach those youth to help them plan for success as they're preparing to transition out. So we have like I said, we have a specific project that's dedicated to that.
My officers really liked attending the different job fairs and your transition meetings that you would have in different areas where the youth would be there, employers, schools. You might explain those a little bit too. Those
Okay.
for my CJ 270 class, these would be good things to include in on grants as funding for these types of job fairs for at-risk youth.
If you are in the state of Missouri, so let me backtrack. So Randall, you mentioned earlier that there are individuals on here that are not specifically from Missouri, right?
Right.
So if you guys go on parentcenterhub.org, and I can type that in the chat box, parentcenterhub.org, you will be able to find your parent training and information center for your state. So every state under IDEA is required to have a PTI, and you can find your state's PTI on that website. If you're from the state of Missouri, I would encourage you to contact our state office, and I better put that number in the chat box, 800 And the reason for that is because you want to know who your coordinator is for that region. You want to know what regional transition networks are already set up in that region, in your region, so that you can join those networks. Okay. Right now, I don't know if we have a voice for justice involved youth on those networking teams. And it will be ideal to have that voice at the table because we're seeing more and more youth. I mean, as young as preschool, I'm getting ready to attend a webinar March the 10th over early childhood suspensions that basically they're cultivating the kids for the juvenile justice system, and that webinar is through FISA. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's early childhood suspensions that are leading to the children being filtered into the juvenile justice system. And Randall, I'll send you that link if you're
Yeah,
interested.
please. Yes.
Um, So during those transition networks, and I wish my team, my colleague Sally, she's actually over the regional transition networks. But those groups, they really focus on what these youth need. They focus on the barriers and the different things that may need to be put in place to help them be successful. And a lot of these youth, they have been exposed to the juvenile justice system. They have been exposed to a lot of, things that are setting them up to be filtered into the basically school to prison pipeline. So it would be wonderful to have an officer or a representative at the table. And at the table we have uh, superintendents, we have sped directors, sped teachers, sometimes parents. So it would be great to have some of you guys there. Uh,
Nakadia, the Missouri Juvenile Justice Association has a grant that started up this year, and they have a school, someone who's supposed to be focusing on the school districts and on that very issue. And she's a retired juvenile officer, very active. And if you haven't met Tammy Walden yet, I can get her information to you, and she would be very interested in that because that's her new job with MJJA. So it's a grant position, and she's doing that after 35 or some odd years with the state as a chief juvenile officer in the Branson area.
okay.
So great gal. I've been on lots of committees with her over the years. So
And
um,
I believe there is an established RTN in the Branson area. So that would be wonderful.
okay, well we'll
Yeah.
work on that after this and through some emails and cover that. Um, when we're talking juveniles and school to prison pipeline, I just want to let everyone know, you think juvenile delinquency, you think stealing cars, driving around, maybe robberies, maybe some assaults at school. You're thinking things like that. And those are true felonies that we would handle as juvenile court officers. But the biggest part of our population, now it's about 75% across Missouri, are not those delinquency activities like they were in the 90s. Now it's abuse neglect cases. So it's kids in foster care. I think in Cape County, there might only be 20 youth on juvenile probation, but there's over 450 kids on in custody because of abuse neglect allegations on their parents. And that population is extremely unsuccessful. If these services don't get pushed toward them and they don't get guidance, and their caseworkers come and go so fast, it's a I've met with so many of them that just have a horrible experience in foster care. So any contact in any state you're in that you can help those kids in foster care, um, they're very appreciative. They really like to help, and they really like getting a little bit more information to get them in a more successful place. Because you can pull it up yourself on one search on your Ole Miss library, uh, children in abuse neglect situations or in foster care outcomes. Look at the outcomes. It'll break your heart what the outcomes are for those kids. So let's just kind of explain something you've worked recently that was an in and out that looked pretty successful when you got done. The parents showed up. How you managed to organize it, what the parents did, and how it's going on today.
Okay. All right. I do want to address, Randall, what you were just speaking on with the foster parents, and the foster youth. So, one of our initiatives with Impact, we have a foster family and foster youth initiative. So, we specifically target those groups and we provide training to foster families because what we find is that because those youth are in and out of homes, sometimes they don't get services initiated the way that they need to, as far as like the evaluation for special education services or behavior plans. And so they just continue to just go on and go on. So we are currently partnered with Foster Adopt Connect. I don't know if you guys might be familiar with that, but we are getting in the Southeast region, we are getting ready to go to their facility once a month to provide training to their staff, as well as they're going to be inviting foster parents to come in, and we're going to be doing individualized support over their IEPs and helping them initiate evaluations and things like that. So we also have that partnership in the Kansas City area, and we're working on strengthening that and elaborating on that partnership. Um, so some of the wonderful experiences we've had. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'll share a personal one first with my son, who he was diagnosed with ADHD and several other diagnoses. He had a lot of behavioral um, issues that kept him getting suspended, put in ISS, constantly losing privileges, and this was like from kindergarten, well, actually first grade and up. So his kindergarten teacher actually wanted to keep him 2 years in kindergarten because she was afraid that once he transitioned, other teachers were not going to understand his behavior and be able to address those behaviors appropriately. And unfortunately, she was right. But with him, his behavior, it wasn't that his behavior was threatening or severe, it was just ongoing, and teachers didn't really understand how to address the behavior. So I ended up pulling him out. I homeschooled him for about 3 years until I met an MPACT mentor. Some kind of way I got connected with MPACT. This mentor worked with me. She explained to me what my rights were. She explained to me about a behavioral plan, a bus intervention plan, a behavior plan in the classroom. I had never heard of those things. So she prepared me for my meeting. I got him back enrolled in school. We had my IEP meeting, and from that, because of that mentor, I was able to get him set up with a behavior plan in the classroom, a behavior plan on the bus, and get him back in school. To that, the school was telling me that there was nothing that they could do, that they tried everything. Um, this is what, since I've been with MPACT, what I found is that almost every story I hear is the same. I don't care if it's the Southeast region, I take calls from Kansas City, different places. A lot of family issues are pretty much the same. And when I say the same, I'm talking about oftentimes it's because there's either a breakdown in communication, the services are not appropriate in the IEP, or the child has been misidentified. Okay, so when a parent recently, just the other day, I was at an IEP meeting with a mom, and this student has a lot of social emotional concerns. Um, so what we did was we helped the team to create goals in the IEP that are based on the child's social emotional needs. Okay, so oftentimes when you look at an IEP, it may be, like I said earlier, it may be just the services. The child may need additional services. They may need their goals maybe revised or even removed. Sometimes, for example, my son, he had a goal in his IEP, a math goal that he was going to be able to count. I can't remember exactly how it was written, and I thought about it. For years he had this goal and he was not meeting it, and it was causing behavioral issues. So my suggestion to the team was Okay, so we rewrote the goal, put the use of the calculator in there, and eventually he met the goal. So sometimes there's just a need for that one little thing that needs to be adjusted or addressed. Another situation I can think of is I had a student, the team was getting ready to expel him indefinitely because of a behavior that was a manifestation of his disability. The team called a manifestation meeting. Mom was present, the child's counselor was present, and the rest of the team was present. So as we were going through the IEP, and the goal of that meeting was to determine whether this student's behavior was in fact a result of the disability, right? So as we're going through the IEP, mom says, "Oh yeah, he has this diagnosis." Well, this diagnosis wasn't in the IEP. I think it was a schizophrenia diagnosis, but the team had not been given that information. And so the school psychologist, once they got that information and they went over the behaviors, the team decided that, oh, yes, this behavior is a result of the disability. And so what happened there is mom had not provided all of the information. So sometimes situations I've seen is that the parent hasn't provided all the information that's needed to make a sound decision, and it can be easily fixed. I see
That's
a
an important,
question.
that's an
Okay.
important term, manifestation of the disability. And as a juvenile officer, when we would get calls from schools or even have an SRO, a school resource officer, bring us a child, and the child had lashed out, said something, let's just say threatened a teacher, and those kind of outbursts were part of the disability. Well, then we were looking back at the school to provide the services and not file charges against that. I found a lot of juvenile officers that would just kind of bridge over that and go ahead and file charges. But I always tried to look at the services that the schools could provide and were providing, and try to let the schools know, look, I don't have a psychologist, I don't have a counselor available, I don't have a nurse available to check on the medication that some of the children are on. If they came to us and came into detention and waited for court, they would have none of those services. And so that was kind of my party line for most of my career, was to push back on the schools to try to provide the services for the kids with disabilities. So
So the
didn't
only
get me
time
invited to their after school parties, that's for sure.
I bet. So the only time that this manifestation determination is not going to apply is if it is a safe school violation act. If it is a safe school violation act, then that student will be disciplined just as a student who does not have a disability. And that's very important because I get parents to call all the time and say, "Well, my child has a disability. They threatened to bring a gun to school, or they threatened to say they were going to kill the teacher, or they actually did bring a gun to school." And then they say, "Well, but my child has ADHD, or my well, that doesn't matter when it's a safe school violation act. It doesn't matter." Also, the school district is only required to carry out the services within the child's IEP, and then those services can be carried out at a place that is agreed upon by the team. So even if the manifestation determination is decided that yes, it is a mandate, that doesn't necessarily mean that the student is going to be educated at school. Okay, so they can. I've had a student receive services at a I think it was a county jail. It was like at a justice facility. The police department. I think that's what it was. So it doesn't necessarily have to be at school on school property.
That is a question that probably somebody should be asking is, We're talking juvenile detention or services in juvenile services, but your services do fit right in sometimes to the county jail, right?
Oh, yes. When that student, and that's what we're trying to expand on, Randall. We're trying to expand on how to support those students who are actually in a facility, and who we need to be talking to and connecting with. We're trying to expand on training. We're looking for some professional development ourselves so that we can become more knowledgeable on how to support those students. I worked with last year. I worked with a couple schools in Missouri, a couple, I think that they were detention centers around the Cape area, and they were kind of confused about who was responsible for the child's IEP. So when a child has an IEP and they're in the justice system, the school district in which that justice system is located, that is the response, that's that district's responsibility. So the school district, just because that student is involved in the justice system, that does not relinquish their responsibility to carry out or provide a free appropriate public education. It may not be occur in the school, it may occur somewhere else, but that student is still entitled to it.
Yeah, I think that covers it quite well. And you're right, that's an ongoing issue and something we need to continue to work on is keep pushing the services in front of the heads of the state with Division of Youth Services and even Department of Corrections. It's a good thing to do. Anybody have any questions? Now's a good time to ask them. Where do you see MPACT heading from here? What's kind of the next focus goal they're going to be working on?
Wow, I'm glad you asked that question. So we recently applied. We are in the process. Actually, we will be submitting on Friday a grant for a statewide family engagement center, which will allow us to not only serve families of children with disabilities, but all families. We will be able to support and serve all families, all youth, even professionals, even those educators. Currently, currently our focus is on parents and youth. So once we get this grant, we'll be able to train and provide services to educators, all families, and all youth. So that is very, very exciting. We'll be able to expand on our juvenile justice works, our military families, foster youth. So we're very excited about this project because
That sounds,
not only youth with disability or parents of youth with disabilities struggle with the education process. Period. All parents, if you don't have, even, I won't even say if you don't have the knowledge or education. I even have, and I know my other colleagues do, we have retired teachers reaching out to us for support, retired sped directors. So it's not just a matter of having the education, there's just a need for support when you're on the other end.
yeah, all the tools. I was really lucky when I first started as a juvenile officer in the early 80s. The Division of Youth Service at the time had just paid to have several of their workers in each region to be trained as family therapists. And then once they received their master's degrees as family therapists, they provided juvenile officers with 100 hours of training in family therapy theory. And then we watched through a one-way, what am I trying to say? A one-way mirror with the family's approval, of course. We watched therapy in session. And so we could get skills and look at the techniques and the theory that the parents were, that the counselors were training the parents to do with the kids and how family therapy worked with families themselves. And it was beautiful. It was great training. I followed up with another grant, and I don't remember what year it was, but I traveled to Washington, D.C. and worked with two of the main family therapists in the country at the time that were working with severe sexual abuse families that had kids that sexually abused other siblings. And they were very focused on this one issue. But by watching them do that therapy and work with those families, it was something I could extrapolate on to work with my families back home in different, different models. But that family therapy training was just, boy, that set the tone for my whole career, knowing that family dynamics, working through that theory. And I just had great trainers too. So it was really important, but I could see really big things coming with you for this. This could be great,
Yeah.
great stuff.
Yeah, we're excited. We've been working night and day. About a month ago, Randall, I did a training for um, FCC Behavioral Health in Poplar Bluff. And during that training, they had about 24 staff there. During the training, we did introductions, and one of the staff members who was, she said when she introduced herself, she said that she had attended an impact training, and that is what caused her to change her career to what she was doing with FCC. And that just blew my mind just to know that just getting that information and hearing that information caused her to just completely change the direction she was going.
Well, the trainings Impact provides, the ones I've attended, I've probably attended 6 to 8, I guess. I'm going to do more. I'm still going to attend when they come back live. But they share so much information, and they just really assist the families to negotiate and speak and know how to preserve documentation. They're just really great meetings. So students want to look a little deeper, they can go to the websites, the Impact websites, and look at those workshops. A lot of them are recorded and right there on the website. But it would be an interesting master's thesis to compare what is going on in other states like Impact. That would be a great master's thesis for someone in social work or juvenile court, criminal justice majors. So it's a very big topic. Very good. Any questions anyone might have? Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, Nakai, is there anything you think we might cover or need to cover, or any questions you're wondering why they didn't ask them?
Mhm. Well, I can't think of anything. If you guys are looking for you guys who are in the state of Missouri, um, or willing to travel, if you're looking for a conference that may give you more information about the transition age youth component of all of this, there's a DESI has a transition institute coming up in June. I believe it's June the 17th through the 19th. If you go on DESI's website, I can put that in the chat.
Should be desi.gov,
Yeah.
.mo.gov maybe.
And if you go there, you can just you'll be able to find that institute information. It is a 3-day event, and there's so much information. I'm sure you guys would take something away from it. Other than that, Randall, the the last thing that I do want to say is we are looking for a committee specific to Missouri to sit on. Right now, we sit on the National Juvenile Justice Education Committee, and we sit there, but we are looking to sit on or be a part of Missouri. So I don't know. I don't have a connection there yet. So maybe I know we have the MJJA, but I don't know if they have any committees or any type of monthly things going
Well,
on.
the office of state court administrator's office has a whole lot of committees. The education committee, the committee that deals with schools, the committee that deals with juvenile officer education trainings. ongoing trainings. So again, that Tammy Walden would probably
Okay.
be a real good contact for that. And I'll give Tammy a call either this week or next and try to set up a phone call with you,
Okay.
because you
Sounds good.
really need to meet her. And I don't think she moved to Jefferson City, but she's working out of Jefferson City right now.
Okay.
I think she still lives in Branson, but that would be a big help. These networks are real helping, especially when you're doing grants, new projects, new programs. I just can't point out enough that you don't do these things alone. They're done in a setting and a team setting with as many people as you can gather up to get it done. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's very helpful. Well, thank you everybody for attending this live. I'm going to go ahead and shut down. Katia, thanks for pulling out
Thank
part of
you.
your evening. It's very good to see you.
Thank you for
I'm
having me.
I can't wait to do some live trainings again. I
Yeah.
love to hear you present.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm training Poplar Bluff in a couple months, then Kennett. So I'll be making my way through. Michelle and I will be making our
Okay.
way
Well, let me know if you need
through.
anybody here to scout out places to do trainings in Cape.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. You guys have a good night.
Great. Thank you
All
very
right. Bye
much.
bye. Bye bye.
Students on here, go and post on the, well, I first have to put some kind of question on the assignment page. I'll do that in a little bit. And so you have something to address. But I appreciate you being here live. Anybody else have any questions to me before I shut it down? You can always email, call. I'm here. All right. Thank you very much. Good night.